damage is insane. It's all good. It's just he's not so strong in every single area that we need to ban him or first pick him. Interesting that this area was banned on blue side though, as that's usually a red side ban because she's the strongest champion on patch. Viego, Senna, and Rengar, obviously for Isageo, all been taken off the table.
Start to beg questions of what you want to be first picking here. Could look towards something like the Thresh or even the standard Xin Zhao in the jungle, but gonna have to leave that one up for just a moment's time. Very normal bans across the board. The Twisted Fate one also still strong on this patch, hasn't been nerfed down on the 12.4, as we will get Gwen, one of the most powerful flexes in the game, and there is that Thresh.
Yeah, it leaves a lot of options open. You could play stuff like the Aphelios on Jinx with extra safety if you want to lock in the Thresh, and it also limits Verdant's ability to do the same. Of course, there are still all the enchanters available as well, so you could look to lock in something a little bit pokey or a little bit more defensive and go for something like that Aphelios still. If you want to go for engage, that's really open as well in the support role. I expect to see that in the first 2 rotations just because you know what you're up against.
Okay, there we go. Hovering that Scary Morgana, not exactly Thresh's favourite champion to play against, and considering Caitlyn, while nerfed, is still a pretty good champion, something that might be living on, but no, we will just get the instant Leona paired with that Xin Zhao, already dedicating Verdant's engagers to going in. Just need to find out what they want to supplement that with. We've got Victor still on the table. Mortifer's played things like the Vex and the Tryndamere, both ends of the spectrum, for just completely antithetical playstyles. So I'm very curious to see what London United actually do in this first rotation. I'm expecting just a standard kind of Aphelios, but no, actually shifting it up to top.
I mean, this is the thing, because now the Aphelios ban can come out, the Jinx ban can come out, but that's both the bans taken off the table. I really like the Trump player. Leona's going to have an exceptionally rough time, and it is still open. You could see it potentially go into that top side if you wanted to see Camille mid. We've seen stranger things in Division 2. But being able to remove that really tanky ability on Leona, especially if she's running Aftershock, and the Gauntlet's being thrown down, IMKey's going to be taking Fiora into the Camille, so it's all dueling all the time in the top side.
One thing that has happened on this patch is it is the one where all the bruiser items got reworked, so if you are able to snowball ahead, get to early death stance kind of windows, even split push champions like the Fiora can go absolutely off on one in a team fight. But more importantly, I'm actually starting to think this could be where we start to see the explosion of Hullbreaker. I've seen it a lot over in LGL, where basically every top laner was taking it for their money. NA starting to have it pop up, and I'm expecting to see, if we do have IMKeys just opting for the hard, leave me on an island, keep our bot lane safe, make sure that that win con's alive, first item Hullbreaker is not uncommon for a lot of these champions.
No, for me personally, I'm looking forward to seeing a couple of the champions that have been building a Hullbreaker anyway. Urgot's the one that shouts out at me, just bring him back, he already builds the item. It's fun. But Vex and Jhin are actually going to be taken off the table, which means that Marksman is the order of the day for Verdant, getting that one off the table, and the Blanc will go the same way. So Aphelios is still available, as is the Jinx. I know the Jhin is absolutely abhorrent to play against right now, the Jhin, rather, but I would have expected a Hyper Carry maybe to be removed.
Yeah, you already have the Trundle and the Thresh, very good facilitators for keeping this kind of carry safe and buy space. It is leaving it open for Verdant. The Trundle is a massive issue for either of these carries, regardless of which one Verdant looks to go for. It's why you normally see things like the Ezreal as a response pick into the Trundle, just because you could get over that pillar. Does mean that Draconium is going to be pretty much the focal point of attention when you have a Camille and a Trundle. These are two champions that make your life a living hell. So here comes the expected hovers of that Aphelios if they want to just shred through this bot lane, which I think probably a good way to look at it.
I would absolutely agree. I mean, Verdant, we're going to see what they round out the composition with in a little while. There's the Aphelios, as you mentioned, already locked in. So now it's going to be on Mortifer. The Victor is still available. You've got the standard Orianna Syndra if you want to be boring about it. The Ryzen. Right. Okay. No, that's fine. It doesn't matter. Winter's going to be picking up his final champion. Obviously going to be going into that one. It's like, yeah, the Ahri, certainly an option and something that could necessarily work, but as you're not really able to dash through the walls, you want to go for something that maybe wants to stand a little bit further away. And yeah, I know, Winter, there are a lot of mid laners. It's going to be the Syndra, so one of those more powerful burst mate. Is burst versus burst in the mid lane?
Yeah, but the thing is that Syndra is all burst. Veigar is zone control paired with burst. He hasn't been nerfed down yet, so he's still got, I believe, that 16-second cage at first level. Completely ridiculous around these kind of dragon skirmishes that really define the meta and define I would say basically every champion in this game, with the exception of the Fiora, wants to be skirmishing in that kind of window, so it becomes very, very annoying. I think Mortifer can really have a carry performance for his team. Curious to see if they will opt for the Predator that has found its way as Vigar's mainstay rune at the moment. Just allows you to close in that gap, put down the cage, potentially pair it with an Everfrost as well, and then you could just always get that lock up into immediate one-shot.
I mean, I've also been talking to a couple of people because whenever there's a new abhorrent build on Vigar, I get DMs. And I was talking to a player who was saying, you can go tank Vigar. It's not actually that bad. You build Everfrost into, like, the bulky items for AP, and you've got 4k health, and you've got Everfrost, and you've got a cage on 11 seconds at max rank. So it's really, there's not that much enemies can do to you, and you're Vigar. So you scale infinitely and burst people with your ult. So it's honestly not that bad. I'm curious to see how Verdant could get over this hurdle, just because a lot of what they want to do and a lot of what they showed early, the priority was to go forward, engage. Into Trundle and Vigar, you can't, and even Camille to an extent, you're not really, and a Fresh, you just can't do it. Like,
Yeah. See, the thing that concerns me the most is when you see Vigar, the biggest question is how many displacement abilities do you have? Because if you have a draft that has Vigar in the center and displacement all around it, it becomes so impossible to play against. They have the Camille, so you could pretty much knock all the enemy team into that Vigar cage if you get one good flank from Icy Gale. You have the Thresh, also a bit more of a safety maneuver, but it is something notable to keep those divers off of the mage in the mid lane. And then finally, you have the Trundle, who can just put the pillar up, slow you, and pop you right into the Vigar cage. So I'm quite scared for this game coming in as Verdant's side. I don't know how you exactly want to attack this one in a way that goes well for you, because every single lane seems to get bodied when it comes to those team fights. So you really do need to get those individual gaps going down, particularly in the top lane is one of the few areas I could see they could maybe stretch it.
well, what I think really, realistically, you have to do is you have to shut on this Vigar early. Understanding that he's going to be a massive issue regardless, because when the champion's main main problem with the champion is utility rather than damage, yeah, he's still going to be able to use that cage in teamfights later on. But you cannot allow him to get online so he can use that utility and get the damage down all over the map anyway. And when that cage is on that 16-second cooldown at the earlier levels, you want to be throwing down some ganks, because that's the only time that Xin Zhao's going to be able to interact with him. And Syndra has all right gank set up with that long-range stun if she can land it. So as we move on to the Rift, maybe that'll be the angle that Verdant go on to, but I'm concerned for what they've built.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to be as coherent as what London United have on their side. Definitely giving the draft advantage over to them, but it is all about the execution now that you're in the game. Something I am going to note, though, is there are no cleanses from Verdant, so Draconium and Ericsson need to be positioning like gods if they do not want to get caught up by Mortifer in these fights. And as for your point of punishing the Vigar early, you do have the potential for Xin Zhao to do a level 2 gank. While it's not the most normal route, it would provide a potential window to pick on the Vigar before they end up leveling into the cage.
That could be an option. Whether Mortifer's going to allow for the overextension, whether he's going to push forward into Syndra to allow for that gank to come through, we'll have to wait and see. But something that you picked up on very well is that lack of cleanse. And I mean, especially for Draconium, you don't want to be within the same postcode as Vigar in teamfights until the ultimate at least has been burnt, and probably the first cage. In the later stages, there's probably a 2 cage cooldown in teamfights. But that's a few minutes away yet. We're at level 1. Everyone is collapsing into each other for those first minion waves, and a little bit of poke already coming out from Draconium, who, as we said, Verdant, if they can get going on this bot side, if Jinx can get fed enough, and you can get something like a big Leona ultimate onto a couple of key members of London United, that could be a route for them to win these later game engagements.
It's really important that they were able to kill that ward level 1, because it means now Draconium can take auto-attack trades onto Divinus and Zed in the bot lane and then dip back into that brush without keeping the minion aggro. So it should provide them at least a window to get to that early level 2 and then try and leverage potentially a kill, potentially try and get some summoners down. We'll be seeing it in about 2 minions time down here, what they actually do with it, but they're in a good spot to pick on someone.
See what the jugglers want to do. I'm keeping my eyes on that mini-map for now. Of course, Xin Zhao just going to be clearing out his entire bot side. Trundle dodging out on Krugs will just be going up to that Gromp. So you've got to imagine that they'll probably be coming out of the map about the same time. Looks like there's not going to be a level 2 gank unless they want to dive a Vigar at level 2, which doesn't seem like a good idea at all. And I think it's
Yeah.
going to be a case of just hanging around on the tower for now for Mortifer.
Which I think is exactly what they want to be doing. It is really this top lane that I think we are going to keep our eyes on for the moment. Just because, like you say, the jungle proximity. Actually, I say that as both junglers are parted their way right back down to the mid lane at this point. There was the window for either of them to get cheeky things done level 3. But that's done Lossy saying, actually, I prefer to shadow our bot lane who's getting pushed in and keep this Vigar on my screen, as opposed to trying to bail out the Camille who, with that Ignite, doesn't really want to be pushing past the tower anyway. They want to be staying in this safety, where just having that summoner dissuades any dive attempt, but also they can't get picked off for pushing in the lane.
Winter has gone towards that mid lane. You've seen that the recall came through from Draconium, so the Leona had places to be. Probably won't be able to find anything mid just yet, just because of the positioning of the wave. But I like the idea again of trying to get this Vigar shut down early, trying to get some damage onto him. And Ericsson's already doing a pretty decent job with that Airy that has been taken on the Syndra, just to keep the poke up and force the Vigar even to go for that earlier back.
You have it's Corrupting Potion versus the Dark Seal and refillable, so Ericsson does have way more trading potential, even on top of that area itself. So, looks like Mortifer was just trying to get to that window where they could get the boots. They've got it now. Will not be upgrading Potion into the full-on Corrupting or anything, but it does provide them that window to set up for Dunlossy. And the thing is, if Vigar runs at your Predator and puts the cage down, and you flash over it as Syndra, if Trundle's there and just pillars you right back into it, it's a lose-lose scenario where you could be without Summoner and without life. So this is something that I really do want to keep an eye on to see if the mid-jungle from London United has got that kind of almost just present knowledge in the moment.
And the question will be where's Mortifer going to want to make that play? Where's he going to want to sprint on down? Dragon's up in 10 seconds, which is the first objective, but since it's just an early ocean, it's not all that much to write home about. Some sustain in lane will be pretty nice for both of these teams, but it's not going to be a mad flip of power potential on either side. Whether he's going to want to use it on cooldown to get down there. Verdant have started up on spawn. London United will have an idea that they're on this one, but it looks like Divinus just clearing out a bit of control in mid lane and making sure that Mortifer has some ability to push up a little further.
I find that interesting decision making because you do have only tier 1 smites on both sides. You have a Thresh with you who notoriously makes it really easy to try and steal things like this.
I don't know, Handcat diving on forward, getting some damage down, and Divinus has to flash over the wall into the red buff pit, but it's being collapsed on in both ways, looking for that blast. Will he be able to get it away? Yes, he will, but the Xenoblade follows through, and Winter picks up first blood.
Very nice to see in a lot of the Verdant games we've had on stream. It's been Winter playing on the back foot, getting focused down exceptionally in the early game, things like the Nautilus just being picked on for the lack of be able to really escape. So it's great to see this player on an engager actually getting to do the namesake of the champions. Being able to force those kind of picks onto a rotating Thresh really does remove all of the real benefits that the Thresh has. If they aren't supporting a teammate, the champion is pretty much beyond worthless.
First blood over to Verdant, which is going to be nice for them on Winter. A little bit less nice for the Leona, but no massive issues so far. And around the map, the rest of the way, it's been pretty quiet, which London United won't mind too much. Getting a couple of these champions up to level 6, getting them to choke points. And yeah, you've lost out on Dragon as well, but the Rift Herald is the true prize coming up in just over a minute's time. And you want to keep your eyes on the bot lane just to see if champions are going to be reassigned up to that top spot, or whether we're just going to see the standard 2v2, 3v3 skirmish over this neutral objective.
See, the fact that London United have crashed this wave here means that it's going to be a bit annoying for them to rotate over after, because normally what you'd want to do is stack up a big wave about 30 seconds, a minute, and then have it start crashing at that point before the Rift Herald spawns, so you can leave the enemy opposition under tower, trying to clear out the wave, and that gives you time to base, go all the way to Herald, and before they've pushed it out, you've still managed to secure the objective and get back down to bot. Since that's not going to be the case, I expect it's probably just going to be 3v3s if this Herald does get focused down straight away.
I'm keeping my eyes on top as well. Both of the top laners are up there, have teleport if they want to make a play down bot side. Well, move down bot side if we're going to see a rotation. Unlikely to happen, though, with the timer ticking on through. And remember, Vigard does have Predator available on those boots, so it's not quite Corky package, but a tiny mage sprinting at you full speed with a huge stun in one hand and a massive burst of damage in the other. It's never particularly pleasant, but it looks like it will be London United taking control of the Rift Herald pit. They've got the vision around it, but there's not going to be a true startup just yet because Handcap moving over, Ericsson just making sure that mid lane's pushed in.
Funny that you mentioned the Corky, because I was just thinking that a lot of players have actually built in this muscle memory to actually delay the Rift Herald start till about 10 minutes so you can have that Corky package. So I think that that is, unfortunately, kind of sunk across the league sphere amid so people just don't do it straight away when it otherwise would have been a fine window.
Handcap needs to be a little bit careful. The ultimate has been burst. Mortifer wasn't able to catch him in the cage this time around, and London United cut their losses and leave. Flash burnt by the jungler from Verdant, but they get a couple of ultimates in return.
Ooh, this is a really close to deleashing Rift Herald. If anybody accidentally walks up and gets in melee range, or I say accidentally, if Dunlossie can somehow grab aggro for a second, then this Herald will just reset.
Oh, they're looking for it. Mortifer's in the background as well, but a decent stun comes on the Tron. Remember, he has no ultimate. He has to flash away. Divinus moves on through. Ericsson takes a bit of damage. Flash away from Winter, who doesn't want to be there too much longer. The Rift Herald does go down. The eyes on the floor. We'll have to see who's going to go and pick that one up, but I don't think there's going to be too much of a contest as Hangat will wander over. No kills. There was a little bit of life in that team fight, but no one goes down.
Couple flashes going down, particularly for both of the junglers, does mean with this Cloud Dragon spawning in a minute, will be difficult to look for a contest on either side without risking your own life in the process, as now we have actually got both bot laners decided to skedaddle on over and start rotating, which means that no plates were taken in this lane. Because of that, normally you see with champions like actually Aphelios and the Jinx are two of the best, just get to rip through the turret when they're left alone on that rotate, neither getting such benefit here.
Keeping my eyes peeled across the map just to see where the next bit of play is going to be, because it has been a remarkably slow start to this game. 10 minutes in, we've seen both objectives taken, and we saw what looked like it could have been a team fight around that Rift Herald, but it never turned into one in full. But we're just resetting the board.
Coy.
Yeah,
Exactly.
they have been.
And I think that that's kind of just the pressure that happens when you are at this tied for bottom place stance. You know that one of you two will be moving up to the 3 and 5 mark, and the other will be one of the first teams to hit that 6 losses in the split. So you really do not want to be there, and I can see why it would really just be getting to some of these players who would otherwise be looking for that kind of killer instinct play. Makes me think down to these two supports who usually would like to be engaging quite a bit as we get it.
Ooh, we're just seeing it come on through. KZ needs to be careful. He's up creek. Hasn't got that much support yet, but it's all in the neighborhood. KZ flashing forward, ulting directly in front of him, which doesn't do any work, but he will dodge away from that ultimate. Goes down eventually with Ericsson securing the kill. Verdant pick up one. Mortifer's sprinted down, so could look for the re-engage, but it'd be a 3v4. And I'm not sure that London United are feeling it too hotly if they can find Jinx, but won't be able to. And it looks like it's just going to be another pick.
Blast Cone is up, and you do have a Thresh, so okay, never mind. Dunlossie's going to the red buff. Take it back. He's jumping away. That could have been the potential window to look for a steal, maybe even try and equalize on that dragon front, because at the end of the day, Verdant, we've talked about in Champ Select, their biggest issue is the fact that in team fights, they really shouldn't be able to play without a big lead ahead of them. So it needs to be them looking to start this snowball on the dragons, with Cloud being taken as we are out of this pause currently, or as we're into this pause for the moment. It does mean that now it is going to be one of the remaining souls of Mountain, Infernal, and all really disgusting win conditions in of their own right.
We don't know what it's going to be, though, so let's not go into too deep discussion about exactly what those wing conditions will look like until it's confirmed, because then we can have a nice little deep dive into how that dragon's going to look for both these teams. But for two teams at the bottom of the table, it's been a remarkably controlled start to the game. You've got teams that have gone for the macro plays are looking for the objective. Verdant especially have been playing around the objectives and not going for these fights. They found a couple of picks where it's a case of this is a free kill, let's just grab it and leave, let's not overextend, let's not restart the fight. The bot lane situation that we just saw is endemic of a much higher level game than we were necessarily expecting, because it's one team makes a pick onto the enemy champions, the other team has committed a decent amount of resources in getting down for the fight, but then don't feel the need to pull the trigger or force anything through from it. So it's just one kill going over. They're going to lose out on the dragon as well. But it's nice. It's nice in a way to see two teams that are playing with some restraint. My only fear is going to be going into that 20-minute mark, going into 25-minute mark, where sitting back and not really taking the play becomes a much bigger issue.
And it makes me think about what engage tools actually exist for these teams, because if you take a look down them, we have things like the Leona ultimate, the Xin Zhao jumping in, and then it's really the running Vigar and a Trundle Pillar on the other side. You don't want your flashless Camille being the first one into the fight unless it is a really nutty flank. So taking a look at how some of these fights might play out, if you could just keep yourself at an even posture with the opponent and really just keep the gold as, I'm guessing, non-variable as possible, you just want it to be an even game state without too much going on, then stacking up these dragons will pay absolute dividends for Verdant, because it just removes a lot of the real avenues that you would otherwise be getting for London United to stretch their lead in these team fights.
And while the lead is small at the moment, it could well balloon. And we're going to get another pause. Looks like whatever was resolved by that last pause wasn't actually resolved, which, you know, it gives us a little bit of opportunity to talk about Mountain Soul.
There you go. It was on cue.
Okay. We've got a little bit of an update there. It's a little bit of lag on London United's side. We're going to get that one resolved as soon as possible. I think Melvin, we're not doing anything in this.
I mean, I'm doing what I can on the second monitor here. I'm
I'm
just rerouting the
doing
BT
my best.
broadband lines, getting what I can done.
BT, I don't know. It's the storms, isn't it? Everyone's
There you
getting
go. That's a
battered
good
by
point.
them. It's a bad time. It was so windy. I almost got blown over yesterday. It was bad. But Mountain Soul, good. A passive soul that's gonna just slow things down even further.
Thing is, I'm thinking about what that does to the Rift, actually, and a lot of these tools, like the Pillar, like the Cage, even like the Jinx traps, will benefit greatly from all those extra choke points that get generated by those spawning bits of mountain terrain. So I feel like if you were to really go in depth and look at who benefits more from this Soul format, I would say that London United are very happy with the Rift. Even Camille gets more things to jump off of at the end of the day, so I've definitely seen it more than once where Camille has only been able to get an engage because of that little bit of rock around the Baron Pit.
Certainly when it looks like skirmishing is going to be so important around these objectives, and so often we see it's not necessarily just along the river, it's when the team coming in to fight has to find their avenue in, and if they haven't got control in mid lane or they're coming in from a different angle, going through multiple chokes to do that is going to sting a great deal, especially if you're Verdant, right? You need to run through to get to that Elder Dragon, to get to that Soul Point, to get to that Baron, and you're fighting through already tons of CC and tons of terrain control. You're not going to want to have to fight through bits of rock as well, because it's going to make things much more difficult for you. And it's already so unpleasant for Verdant to actually engage fights. If with this rift that we're about to see, if they don't have maintain the same level of control around objectives that we've seen so far, it could become very, very unpleasant for them, even at an even keel.
So we've been talking a lot about this game from the top-down perspective and how it's been a lot of more so fighting on the minimap than actually fighting on the main screen. And so one of the things that I want to be looking at is how both of these teams play around double objectives at the same time.
Yeah.
Because since they both have pretty good tools for denying entrance to the river, obviously leaning that more over to London United squad, you want to be getting to whichever objective you try to take first and by a good margin. So if we can start to see these teams get pretty regular resets in every minute or so before those objectives, maybe it will start to be a bit of a leveling game where, okay, you're going to back a minute before, we'll back a minute and a half before, and we'll get there. And it just leaves you in a weird position as we start to get further in, where it's starting to say, okay, we do have an Aphelios, or we do have a Jinx. Can we just turn around and go Shred Baron instead of contesting this Soul? And that becomes ever present as the game goes on, particularly for Verdant, who are already 2 dragons up and will be staring down the Soul Point in 5 minutes' time if we don't see a change of pace from London United.
But just a very quick point on the soul point. How important is that for either of these teams? Because the shield is obviously nice, the resistances are nice, but it's not really a game winner in a sense. Is it a case of, would you ever say, and this is me being like dumb bad at League of Legends,
Okay.
and I hope that you're not dumb bad at League of Legends like I am, because otherwise you're
Fingers
an
crossed
analyst.
not.
That would be really awkward.
That would hurt for me. I don't have the
That
yelling
would
for it.
suck. Yeah. If you're on the side of London United, do you kind of say we're not that fussed about you getting Dragon Soul? We're more fussed about opening up the Elder, which we can then play around ourselves.
I think that it's a bit five-head as far as things go, because it's something that I know people have used as genuine points before, but usually that's only the case when you can definitely flip the Baron and also win with that Baron typically, or at least be putting your opponent in a position where they're losing all of their inhibs. It's just going to be Nexus Towers try to defend, and then where they're forced to stay in the base and where Elder is a bit more secure. I know that a lot of teams dislike getting to the point where Elder is deciding the game, because at that eventuality, it's just the junglers going for a smite fight, and whoever gets it will 9 out of 10 times win the ensuing battle, and then the game will end. Especially when you're facing down a Jinx and a Xin Zhao, who can dash from plenty far away to get in and flip those dragons. And if Jinx gets a reset off of the Elder, you might as well call the fight over there and then. So taking a look at it, I don't think that London United want to get to that kind of point. They definitely want to be just denying the soul and building them up for themselves. As for Verdant, similar story, because if you do start giving over these dragons and start giving over the soul, then it gets rough, because one of your main win cons is Syndra, Ericsson getting a big burst down onto somebody and buying that reset timer for Draconium on this Jinx. If you can't do that because they have, say an extra 30 MR on some of the tankier members and getting a big health shield on top of that, then suddenly your comp falls apart.
But, go with me on this.
Go on. Are you going to say Trundle ult?
I was going to say Trundle ult.
Because I was thinking it too, and I was like, I'll let you do it. Because
Lossie, he's like win-win. Win-win situation for me, because if you're getting that Dragon Soul, so am I, chums. But somehow, I don't think that Lossie has the pull within the team.
Guys, just give up the soul.
We'll just give up on playing this game. It's fine.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. We're going into our third pause. Mr. Producer, we can not go back to our faces immediately, because I do need to have a little drink. But Melvin, talk to me about your day. How's it going?
My day was pretty good. Yeah, I was up at 8 to get work done out of the way. It was nice, just a bit of data handling, nothing too out of the ordinary.
Nice.
The standard. It's a lot of fun. I like looking at spreadsheets. I'm a bit of a strange person like that. How was your day?
It's been all right. Yeah, I had a little meeting earlier today. What did I do in my day? I sorted out some prep work for a different league, which we don't want to talk about out of respect for this one. Yeah, just been a kind of review. I did a VOD review of some of my casting last weekend. That was fun. It was all right. Yeah. Game 1 having the pause is a bit rough, because we could do a retrospective of how the day has looked so far, but the day has looked sepia tone.
We got 11 minutes to do a recap of at this point. Yeah, I feel like that's not the right angle to be looking at it for.
No, okay, Melvin. We're gonna play a fun game called Viper and Phil's Time. So
I like it.
I want you. Actually, it's actually rinsing an idea that has been used on the First Division post show, but I came up with the idea, so it's not really a rinse. I want you to explain to me and convince everyone at home as well. Twitch chat, you're having to play because someone has to play today, and it's apparently not London United and Verdant. One champion in League of Legends that isn't currently in vogue that you think should be, and why? And I'll give you, Mr. Producer, can we get 2 minutes on the clock, please, Mr. Producer?
2 minutes.
2 minutes to explain to me why a champion that isn't currently in meta should be in meta. Can you get a countdown, please, Mr. Reed?
All right.
I'm giving it Producer time. We've got nothing but time.
Yeah, no, we really do have just exponential amounts of it, and I'm gonna be predictable for this. I'm waiting until we're told we can start.
Yeah, we have to play properly. Like, yeah, I'm gonna open Twitch chat, which is something I never do because I want to see how they respond to this. Oh, Twitch has 3 minutes behind me, so there's no point in doing that. Thank you, Mr. Producer. Um, we can go back
Don't
to our
lift the
faces now, by the
curtain.
way. I'm
Yeah.
we can
Okay,
go
so I
back to
have a
ours. I finished
problem with
streaming.
League of Legends before we do the game. And my biggest
Okay,
problem is
right. Talk
I
to me.
frequently forget all of the champions that aren't currently on my screen. That is my
Right.
biggest woe with the game. But I do have one that, funnily enough, is always on my screen, as it is one of my desktop backgrounds. And
Oh,
so,
right.
funnily enough, I'm going to say that Ivan should be getting played a little bit more
Right.
at
No,
this
no.
point.
Stop. I said champions that aren't in meta aren't in vogue.
You gonna call him in Vogue? He's been played what? A little bit. Okay, I know we talked about it a little bit. He's been played over there, but generally around the world, I would say he is still out of fashion. Yes, LS playing it mid, getting fudged to lock that one in over in Church 9 isn't what I'm gonna say is in vogue. If
Okay.
anything, it's about to
Okay.
be in vogue if it will be. And I'm
Right.
saying also, for the similar reason of why we see Gwen is so good at the moment, be able to flex between top and jungle, having the Ivan as a possibility combined with the Gwen and being able to flex those two makes actually doing the draft really annoying. And I love champions that make the draft really annoying. Sorry, coaches, I love you really. It's because I enjoy watching the draft, not because I hate you personally. And I think that when you're looking down Enchanter plus a champion that wins the game solo with a good Enchanter, then it really does start to throw things through a loop. We have obviously the smite top strategy that is getting toned down on next patch. Funnily enough, doesn't need the smite, and Ivan does have his own unique interactions with that, be able to just yeet the camps away himself. So I'm curious to see how that evolves on live, and the fact that it means you could be locking in a champion with 3 flex potential and isn't actually bad in any of them. It's something that you do need to think about. It's just one of those ones that people don't want to play.
I mean, I know someone who wants to play it. I
Yeah?
know at least one pro player who very much I talked to him about it last weekend about how much he enjoys playing it on competitive matches. For those who don't know, it's Donarts out in the LCL who's played 2 games of Ivern and has been having a whale of a time. 100% success rate on that pick. Yeah, I mean, I don't dislike Ivern. I think he's funny.
He is funny. We got
He's
that
just
one, yeah.
wanders round, throws down Daisy, has a great time. I like. Actually, have I told you about the legend of Unsealed Spellbook support Ivern?
Go on.
So you take as your standard summoners teleport smite.
Okay.
You start the game. Your support as well. This is should be made
Okay,
clear.
because I've definitely done this as jungle, but with Flash Smite and then swapping to teleport. My favorite kind of ganks were old TP Spellbook Smite Ivan in the jungle, TPing in behind them with Daisy, who just pops up with you. It's
See,
brilliant.
this is the thing because the TV changes don't matter for this build. They have done nothing. You go. What your team has to do is your team has
I
to
know exactly what you're gonna say.
little
Can I try and
sneaky
read?
like. Okay,
Are you
give me
gonna
the
say
read.
that because it's support, you go to the enemy's top side jungle and then smite that and then just teleport to bot
You
lane straight away? Yeah,
absolutely do.
yeah,
Yes.
okay.
And what
A
you want to do is
connoisseur.
you want to play it with something that has a reasonable amount of push potential in the bot lane. So you don't want to be like Ezreal, someone safe, where you think, that makes no rubbish, nonsense. Pick it with like Ziggs. That's funny because then the Ziggs pushes on, and every time the enemy buff is coming up, because you'll have timer on it, or you think this is probably when the blue buff's going to be up for the enemy. Because by and large, junglers don't tend to be on their buff at spawn because they have other stuff to be doing. But the fact of the matter is, your support Ivan, you've got absolutely nowhere else to be. So you just tell Ziggs, 20 seconds, he just ults the wave, doesn't care. You wander into the enemy jungle, steal the blue buff, and leave. And it's not good. You're not really achieving very much. But the enemy jungle is having such an unpleasant gameplay experience. It's worth it for no other reason. But
How did we
fortunately,
do that? That
we're
was some
back in
good
the game.
vamping. That was some great vamping right there. We managed to actually buy that much time as Mortifer getting forced out of lane. We come back to the first bit of action. Maybe that was Ericsson just getting frustrated with the pauses and wanting to
He just
get the
wants to
game
play.
rolling.
He's like, I just want to use my abilities, please.
I've
So he
had
just
this
follows
R
all the
button for
man.
so long. I will use it, damn it.
He's
Not going to
just
get the kill, though.
firmly committed
Will we
to.
get pressure?
Which, yeah, that's always good. And the teleport coming back through from Mortifer has been blown. Obviously, they're not unleashed just yet. We've got about another minute on that one. But throwing it down one more time just to get a bit of pressure as we're moving towards the bot side. Hankat and Ericsson looking for the dive potentially. Not
I
going to
mean,
be
the
able to
Rift
find
Herald's gonna
it.
run out. This is the time to use it. Yeah, you can't really get back to mid and have anything notable. Even if you're not this down to one plate, you're still getting a big influx of gold. But the fact that they actually might be able to get this whole turret, oh,
Ooh, one
that's
more
so close.
swipe. One more swipe from Rift Herald could be enough, but they've got the catch on. Actually, tower will go down, but in the jungle, there are also big problems for Lil Vigar. He's burning low as Winter chase on through. Won't be able to chase into the entire London United roster. In the fight in the bot lane, no one went down either. So again, we're teased with action, but at the end of the day, only the tower is killed.
That was nicely played right there from Verdant. Having Winter and Ericsson actually start to rotate up and block that, knowing that with Ultimate Zinzao can at least mitigate the majority of what Aphelios is going to be doing. The fact that they get out, I'm not going to say is completely a God-given right there. There was definitely a lot of worlds where Handcat ends up dying, but even then, net gold advantage. You're going to be able to keep your Jinx down here to defend the tower, stop any plates going over outside that first one for the bot lane of London United. And now, you have just opened up a lane where your Fiora can be strolling on down later. Hold on a minute.
Ooh, not going to be strolling anywhere. Caught in the ultimatum, taking a lot of damage and is very far up. There's the cable shot. Flash comes out from Iron Keys. And the game over is also popped. Just to show that Fiora's out.
This is one of the matchups that the Ignite teleport Camille really does start to punish, because otherwise the fights wouldn't necessarily be going this way. Obviously, Iron Keys hadn't backed right there, so they weren't on their Mythic just yet. But the Ignite really does give you the ability to skirmish, because there's not that big influx of healing that comes out from the Fiora that otherwise makes her the best duelist in the game for basically every circumstance.
Draconium actually moved up to that top side. You can see Winter's there as well, so the lane swap in full effect because there's no tower in the bottom lane to take down. No more plates to take down either, it should be noted. But Verdant currently sitting on a pretty comfortable gold lead. If we could just look where that's sitting, Mr. Reed, that would be incredible. I believe I know where it is. Yeah, you can see in the bot lane, Jinx having a very nice time. And in the mid lane as well, Ericsson not looking too shabby.
I was going to say, it's even up in the top lane as well. It really is just a whole team gap right now. Nobody behind at all for Verdant. This is a good performance so far, and they need to keep it up. One of the areas I will say, though, based on these lane assignments, is Aphelios has historically always despised playing against Syndra. It was one of the biggest counters to him in the bottom lane when Syndra has been picked down there a lot. So this is going to be a nuisance of a fight for Zed to play.
Winter gets flayed away, but the double stun comes through with Ericsson. But there is Vigar coming in from the side, puts on the gate, but not going to catch anyone. Flash away from Draconium as Handcat, the only one really caught out, but he's pretty tanky. Loses the ultimate now, though, and has to dive back in. Will go down for the first kill of the fight. Ice Scale goes on through, but on the other side, Vigar's already dead. They're going to get a reset on the Jinx, who's going to chase forward, looking towards the surviving members. Draconium chasing on through, won't be able to find anyone as the lantern will be used. Escape from a couple of members of London United, but they do lose the fight.
And I hadn't even considered that as well. On top of being able to get the Syndra burst to set up for your Jinx, you also get it to enable the Fiora Grand Challenge in a team fight. If you burst out one member and Iron Keys gets a single proc of that ultimate onto them, suddenly there's a big healing circle and you can't fight into that. Really good stuff from Verdant, and because this dragon is about to spawn, they should be getting priority on that too.
And being able to grab the third dragon, setting themselves up for Soul very, very early is going to be really nice. We're going to jump quickly to a replay there just to see exactly what went on this fight.
Massive stun onto two members, just gives complete time over. And you see Mortifer's rotating around the side, and that's why Draconium has to flash out. But so much time just being bought here that while Icy Gale gets the TP in, it is the top laner that gets to finish off everything. Iron Keys getting the chunk out. A great Gale Force from Draconium, actually. I didn't see that was what did the final blow. But well played from this Verdant squad. Getting complete control over the map. And here was that last kill on the side. Icy Gale doing Icy Gale things as a potentially overzealous wave clear from Ericsson.
Yeah, didn't give the respect needed. Saw the teleport come through from the Camille, but wasn't able to do very much about it. And goes down in the end. But with a fight that's 2 for 2, so you'd look at it and think pretty even. It's quite clear that Verdant would be the happy of the two with the way things have gone about. If Ericsson's a little bit less greedy, does tend to walk away. And when a team is behind, going even is usually fine. But when the dragon actually went over to London United.
Yeah, that was the thing. Because Ericsson dies mid, they don't have somebody to keep the mid prio and also just zone off things like this Camille, who otherwise is very easy to stop if you have multiple people there to peel for this Syndra. but it means that now that soul condition for Verdant has been delayed. It is 10 minutes away at best for them. And I feel like once we start to get into the near 30-minute mark, we're going to be looking at 2 to 3 kind of full items for all the carries of London United, and that is where the tempo of this game really does pivot.
And Mortimer just giving some time in the bot side just to farm up Krugs and
What
get himself
stacks
a
is
little
he
bit
at?
more first. I don't know,
take a
Mr.
look.
Reed. How we looking?
Icy Girl's going to get jumped on in a second, but we get 126 stacks. All right, nicely done on both sides. Going to allow us to stay in our happy little lull state.
Just a case of the game has sped up since we came out of pause, whether these two teams just wanting to get this one finished before anyone else's internet goes down. No, you've got to imagine it's just a case of people hitting their spikes. We always said that the mid game was going to be pivotal in this matchup with these champions, especially with Verdant needing to force through. They're going to be dropping their Terror on top side just to break down this inner tower, and it will fall. You've got to imagine it's super low and there's no real concerted defense just yet. Not going to be able to get the charge onto the inhibitor, and they look like they know that, just moving away and going to let this one get cleared out. But Verdant really ramping up the speed, and this kind of macro decision making and confidence is something that they've been lacking in the past couple of weeks.
And I like the use of it up here while you have everybody, just because it's a safe push. It doesn't have any innate risk. You aren't going to get run up and Vigar cage because you have the person priority over here. You know there's no teleport for the Camille, so you can always just buy that space and walk out. I think that, yes, it would have been nicer to open up mid, but by getting this top tower down, it means now around the dragon fights, IM Keys can have an early rotate over there and be threatening onto the base doors. It's the side lanes that are super important for Fiora, because as soon as this mid lane tier 1 is down, which it already is for London United, the Vigar loses a lot of the ability to just stand there and then quickly jump either side and put down a disgusting cage.
Absolutely. Taking away that safety net always opens up the map when you've got a champion who's so reliant on just being able to wave clear, just being able to sit safely and then move to where the action requires. It's a massive loss. You do have the teleport, of course, so that's going to give the option to do it much less frequently and with a little bit less flexibility, because you're going to need something to teleport to in order to make that work. But the ability for Verdant, they've put themselves in such a nice position, especially when we were both pretty critical of their draft. It seems like they know exactly what they're doing. And yeah, there are still question marks. There's still fears moving into the late game, as the blue buff is just going to be stolen away by Ericsson and likely secured for the Syndra. There it is, stolen perfectly. They're doing much better than I expected. And in the bot side, this is going to be quite an easy kill going over to Icy Gale, though. So yeah, the Camille certainly showing exactly what you were saying earlier, how this one-on-one can be so dangerous for Fiora.
I could smell a caster curse going on right there, as Icy Gale is going to be able to take that one, and because they have got this Hydra in inventory, they're going to be able to push out the wave quite quickly and start threatening onto towers themselves. Yes, we've talked so much about how Fiora loves a good split push, but at the end of the day, Camille is no slouch himself, able to shred through turrets. Actually, he's not pushing. They appear to just be hard freezing on IM Keys, leaving the Fiora exactly where they want to be, but in the worst possible situation. I expect them to be running top to avoid any interactions of Icy Gale here, but the Dragon's up in 30, and Icy will have complete control over what happens with this bot wave.
He has the ability to teleport in and make things work during the fight. And of course, it's not going to be a soul because that last one was taken up by London United, but they can put themselves in even position. The engage comes through from Winter, but it's only on the Thresh, who is going to flash away. So Divinus not going to have that tool for the Dragon fight. But honestly, Thresh having flash is not always the biggest miss when it comes to a skirmish or a 4v4, 5v5 situation. You can see Fiora and Ice Gale moving up towards IM Keys saying, look, I'm going to match you wherever you go. The Dragon is going to go down one way or another. Verdant have control over the river and have actually started up very, very quickly. Just want to secure this one before there's any kind of contest. But Winter's the only one playing bodyguard, and they're not in the right position. Oh, teleport's going to come on through.
Oh, no,
but there's
cancel.
the catch onto Leona. Needs to be careful. The cancel has come out, but Exxon's on the side. Will get the explosion. It's done. Lossy, who goes down over the back of the pit, goes Zinzao, looking for the damage, looking for the kill. Will be able to find it with Winter, but Winter also explodes. Mortifer goes massive, picking up a kill, but is now without ultimate, puts up the cage just for defensive sake. And the Dragon actually hasn't gone down just yet.
Icy Gale ended up losing the 1v1 after they cancelled the Fiora TP, actually. Looks like the flash was really important in that fight there, as now IM Keys is going to be able to pressure onto this. Verdant picking up the soul point. This is a dire strait for London United. I know we've really hammed on about how favored London United should be as the game goes on. But if they don't get there, and if they aren't able to play on the front foot, it might as well just be a poke comp playing against Baron, because you can't do anything to stop them.
And that's the thing. We always talk about which team is favored at which point in the game, right? And more, obviously, the late game, the win state doesn't exist as much anymore. Or some people would argue it never existed. We're not going to get into a philosophical debate about that. But the fact of the matter is, Winter was trying to cut me off, but it wasn't going to work, Leona. I've got points to make. They need to be getting to that point on an even keel or a little bit behind. This is an even keel or a little bit behind. Verdant have a 6,000 gold lead with a lot of very useful tools. They've got the Jinx, they've got the Syndra, they've got the Fiora. These champions are not going to be falling off. And the fact of the matter is, Aphelios is the only person who's standing really far back and getting loads of consistent DPS down safely in these team fights, because Mortifer's a lot of burst. Yeah, he's the utility as well, but he's not putting out that really consistent DPS the entire time. And Ericsson has a button on his keyboard that kills Aphelios if he gets near to her.
It's not just Ericsson as well. In that last fight, Hankat got over the wall and just completely ruined any chance for the Aphelios to do anything in the fight. This Xin from ahead is such a nuisance, actually picking up the stopwatch now on both the mid and jungle from Verdant. It means that in these kind of fights, they can buy so much time that on the Aphelios, who isn't really at the kind of itemization where they're shredding through people just yet, usually it's after they get the IE that they'll start to really do notable burst to a lot of these people. You really don't get to play the game. Like, London United do not have a good way to win outside of Icy Gale, and they need to be leveraging that. The fact that with this fully completed Mirror Mana, Keys is once again favored in the side lane without Ignite, then I don't think it's a good spot for London United. They need to be using his TP right here to flip the game if they want a chance to be able to make it to the Soul.
Well, Baron has been stopped for now. Keys again winning that 1v1. It's just not going the way of Icy Gale without that Ignite being available. The burn went down, but Keys just too far ahead at this point, and what seemed like a good matchup in the bot side for Icy Gale, and I say in the bot side because that's where it really started, the conversation with that 1v1 kill. Actually, we're going to have to hold that point because we're going to have the Baron once again start up. It's a 4v4 because Fiora's not there, but she'll be making gains on the bot side. Can they get enough damage down? Can London United put the last down? Ericsson gets the first kill of the fight, but it's only on Stiffness, and they will lose one in kind. Chasing forward, both supports are dead. Keys looking towards that inhibitor as the dive-fall comes through from a Handcap, but he's going to get caught out. Has to go golden in order to survive. There comes the cage. It's going to catch Zinzao in the offing. Damage coming through. Mortifer gets the kill, but there's the reset coming through from Jinx. Chasing forward, gets the zap, gets the slow, gets the damage, and there's another one. The ultimate goes wide. Will it be enough? Mortimer puts up another cage as the inhibitor goes down in the bot side. It was a double kill for Syndra in the end. And just like that, Verdant win the team fight. Don't get the Baron, but break the base.
I think that's a bigger win for them, honestly, because you'd only use the Baron to try and siege up into the enemy. This way, it's a no-risk scenario. As we take a look at how this actually kicked off in the bottom lane, Keys, they definitely were the aggressor in this situation, and when you are the Ignite Camille, oh no, that was it. It was just the whiff on the E taking them over the wall, leaving them perfectly there for Keys to go down. Considering this player was in the jungle for the most of this split, and they've only just transitioned back into the top lane. Really good performance from them. As we see for this Baron, it is just Verdant waiting. You're winning by not doing anything, and if you get a fight that goes even, it's also going to be in your favor. Look at this just crescendum of different cages blocking down positioning in the river, and we do get to see one of the benefits of the Vigar here, where after Handcat goes into the stasis, they are instantly stunned upon coming out, and Zed bursted by the Syndra in return, though. It's always going to go in the favor of the Jinx team if you get these super elongated fights, and that is what we were delivered for Verdant.
The Baron free, return of the Handcat. That's going to be started up by Verdant once again. You can already see members moving through from London United. They do want to do at least enough to slow this one down, because Baron goes down without a bot lane inhibitor. That's going to be
That's
very,
it.
very hard to defend against. And you can see on the back line,
Flash up.
Jungle's moving on through. Looking for damage. Is over the back of it because it's going to look for a steal, but Winter comes on through, puts down the ultimate. They're just trying to break up this fight as much as possible. Jinx on the back line is going to try and do work, but has to run on through. Teleport coming in onto the bottom side. But you can see Fiora's already here. Puts down the ultimate, takes down one. It's a Aphelios who once again is removed. Mortifier looking for the damage. Winter over the side will be able to dodge away. Remember, Ericsson is still alive, but both marksmen are down as IronKey's cutting through once again. Icy Gale, the only survivor in that team fight. No Jinx will be small solace for London United, as they probably don't lose here, but they're going to lose a lot of stuff.
Oh, it's going to be close. They can definitely look for it. I think you're right. It will just be the inhib take, but that's an open inhibitor in the top lane as well. They could even just look to take both. The Mountain Dragon is up. This is Soul for Verdant, so I think this is a lot safer. Splitting up your priority and potentially even just sacrificing IronKeys to keep attention in your own base, as there is not a teleport available yet for London. They cannot come over to stop this objective. They know there's a control ward on the way, but I don't think they're too afraid of a Vigar contest.
I don't think they're that scared, especially when he would have teleport in solo against two members. Ericsson and Handcap both there. Ericsson doesn't have ultimate, but it's going to come up in not too distant future. And I think this dragon is already going to have gone down. That's the soul going over to Verdant. And in the top side, that's another duel that doesn't go the way of Icy Gale. Jumps up in the air, but dies on arrival. IronKeys running this matchup right now.
The Grand Duelists, they are having a killer performance, as now Baron is pretty much the free take. This is, I'm going to quite easily say the game for Verdant's favor. London United are going to need a miracle on top of another miracle to have any chance of keeping this one alive. You do not have the wave clear against the Baron buff. And in reality, while we've said that they should be able to play the team fights well, it doesn't matter when you're against full Rabadons, full Infinity Edge, double Death Dance, meaning that if the single kill goes over to the side of Verdant, they basically just have reset potential on everybody for all intents and purposes.
They've got that Baron. They're moving on through the jungle. A decent chunk of damage goes onto Handcap, but not enough to really be scaring the likes of Xin Zhao. And now just moving in towards topside. This is the only inhibitor left standing. No inhibitor tower, it must be reminded. So they're just going to be looking to get pressure on Fiora doing Raptors, because of course, that's what you do. You just do Raptors,
that's the late game win con. Take the enemy's chickens, that's it.
Well, they're not going to be able to do anything.
Yeah, there we go. This is a... Okay,
the fight's
alright.
Still live, though. Fresh will be able to walk away from this one. Nice double stun coming through from the mid laner, but there goes the third inhibitor. And you can see minions already crashing in onto the bottom Nexus tower. And with a Jinx, these won't be long for this world. Breaking down one, looking towards a second as members just keep London United off the Nexus. Hunger goes in, will actually go low and could well fall, but the Nexus is laid bare. And now you can see turning the attention to Draconium, throwing bombs, throwing damage, taking down members of London United before turning attention back towards the Nexus. And it is going to be Verdant picking up the win at the bottom of the table. London United in a very rough spot.
That is just going to be another one of those situations where you have the team that scales. And we have to say it with air quotes, because if you do not stay in the game, yeah, in a theoretical world, you get the scale, but if you don't contest the map, if you don't make those early priority plays, and you just let the enemy get advantages, there's a reason that bounties aren't just a free way back into it. You actually need to be able to take them at some point if you want to contest for the fights.
This is very true, and I mean, Verdant, at the beginning, it was slow, it was steady, but they had control and they never let it go. We're going to jump to a short break, but when we come back, we're going to be speaking to someone from Verdant about that important victory, so don't go anywhere. We'll see you in a few minutes.